From Libya to Egypt to Syria, as we have watched revolutions unfold, we have seen women spurring change. They've been there right at the front of all the demonstrations, risking their lives for new leaders and new rights. So perhaps no one has more riding on the outcome of the Arab Spring than the women who've lived under oppression and now hope for freedom. But will they get it? In the new cover article for Foreign Policy magazine, Egyptian-American journalist Mona Eltahawy asks, why do they hate us? She warns that the rights of women in the Arab world are still in serious jeopardy. Mona joined me a short while ago from New York. Mona, thank you very much for joining me with this very powerful article. First of all, explain the role that women have played in the course of the Arab Spring.
Women have been on the front lines of every single uprising and revolution that we witnessed in the region since Mohamed Bouazizi set himself on fire in Tunisia of December of 2010. Whether it's in Syria today, where we still see their incredible courage alongside men, or in Egypt, where inside jails, outside of jails, or in Tunisia, where they're building their country towards a new constitution, women have been front and center alongside men, which is why it's really important that we think of the second revolution, the revolution that will continue this one, which I believe must be a gender revolution.
Okay, Mona, what was it that those women who were in the front lines of these revolutions were asking for? What did they want from change?
Well, they wanted freedom and dignity, which have been the catchwords or the themes of all the revolutions across the region. Now, in Egypt, for example, Hosni Mubarak oppressed all of Egypt. But when we take Hosni Mubarak outside of the picture, there's still a Mubarak in our minds, there's a Mubarak in our bedrooms, there's a Mubarak in the streets. Because Egyptian society, in its conservative, patriarchal attitudes towards women, oppresses Egyptian women. So it's like a hierarchy of oppression. So when women went out on the street, they were fighting the patriarch, Mubarak. But many of the women I know there on the street, and when I go back and demonstrate with them, we're now fighting against the small patriarchs, which is that conservative attitude that does not believe in freedom and dignity for all.
Okay, and in terms of the governments that have taken over in places like Tunisia and in Libya, and we're still waiting in Egypt, have they given women the things that they were asking for from the revolution? Have they paid them back effectively?
Well, at least in Tunisia, they have more than 40 women in their constituent assembly. And that speaks to the high visibility of Tunisian women in their country. But in my country of birth, Egypt, in our constituent assembly, which has now been disbanded, thankfully, or suspended, out of 100 members, only 7 were women. And that is a shameful and disgraceful number. So the point of my essay is that the revolutions in the Middle East and North Africa were started by a man, Mohamed Bouazizi, and they will be completed by women, because it's women who understand the freedom and dignity that truly lie at the heart of these uprisings.
Okay, but Mona, you also, you have this very provocative title, Why Do They Hate Us? And your suggestion is that women are not going to get the kind of dignity and freedom and equality that they want in the Middle East because they are, as you put it, hated by their menfolk.
Right. One of the points I make is that we don't have any freedoms in the Middle East and North Africa because they hate us. And that's why I'm saying that what's going on the ground there now, be it through various feminist movements or individual activists who stood up to the military junta in Egypt or others, what they're doing is they're saying we demand those rights. Just as the populations that rose up said we demand freedom and dignity, women are saying we demand it because we can't wait until it's given to us. We have to fight for it.
Briefly, Mona, do you think hatred is the right word? Is that what you feel women suffer in the Middle East?
I do, Cathy, because a picture that illustrates my essay is of the 6 or 7 soldiers that were stomping very violently on a woman in Tahrir Square in December. And that level of viciousness is truly hatred. And I know it's a provocative word, and I think we need to be provocative. We need to poke. And so as a writer, I think it's my job, it's my role to poke the painful places. And so I use hate to be controversial and to make people really ask what's going on.
Okay, Mona Eltahawy, it's a very strong piece. Thank you so much for joining me, Mona.
Thank you.